Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the StockCharts TV studio here in Redmond, Washington. My name is Grayson Roze, Chief Strategist at StockCharts.com. I am, as always, delighted to be with you, especially this week. I got to say, we got a market that's finally starting to move to the upside. That puts a smile on my face. We got sunshine here in the Seattle area. We don't get that very often. And on top of all of that, it's my birthday week. So, you know what? Lots to live for this week. I'm feeling pretty good. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun digging into a couple of tools around the StockCharts platform that are going to help you find, I kid you not, the strongest stocks out there in the market in just a couple of clicks, in less than a minute, maybe even just a couple of seconds. You're going to see the power of these tools makes it incredibly easy to find literally the strongest stocks out there across the major averages. Things like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100. Maybe you want to dig into some of that strength we've been seeing out of small caps lately with the S&P 600. Any of those major indexes, you can pull up the members of those and pinpoint the strongest stocks very, very quickly and easily. So we're going to show you that in action here in just a minute. Before we do, though, I got to talk about some things I've been seeing in the S&P 500. I don't think that we've seen this crucial of a level, this crucial of a moment for the S&P 500 in a while. Right now, we have got some critical levels to watch. We're bouncing up against them, sort of banging off of them. So I want to jump over, before we dig into those tools, I want to jump over to the short-term chart of the S&P 500 that I'm watching. We call this our tactical timing chart. I want to walk you through exactly what I'm seeing and why this is such a crucial moment for the S&P 500. So let's jump over to StockCharts and get this thing going. All right, so we are going to start here on the members dashboard, but we're actually going to jump really quickly to my new favorite thing on the entirety of StockCharts. That is, of course, our new market summary page. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, posting about it and sending out stuff in our newsletter, everything. This page has quickly become one of maybe my favorite, maybe the top of the list, favorite resource on the StockCharts platform. I think you're going to see why in just a sec. First and foremost, want to make sure that you guys know how to get to that new tool. So from the members dashboard right here in the middle, we've got our little market overview. You've got a button, though, big blue button, full market summary. That's probably the quickest way to jump over to that new market summary page. Anywhere else around the StockCharts platform that you are, though, hit that charts and tools link in the top left corner. And under research tools, you've got a link right there to market summary. So use either of those links to get to this new page. Now, of course, we've hit this a lot in the last couple of weeks. Everything that you need to see to unpack everything that's happening in every corner of the markets, I promise you, it's all on this page. We've got tons and tons of data to drill into the equity markets, but also other asset classes like bonds, commodities, currencies. It's all down here at the bottom of the page. You can scroll through this thing. And I swear, if there's something that you think you need that's not on this page, I think you're probably not even looking closely enough at it, because everything that you need to really understand what's happening in the equity markets is right on this page. So one of the tools that we're going to use to find those strong stocks out there in the market is actually going to be on this page. But like I said, before I do that, I got to pull up this chart of the S&P 500 that I'm watching. This is what we call our tactical timing chart. It's a short-term chart, 30-minute chart. So every bar on this chart represents 30 minutes of trading. And it's got a very interesting moving average, which we're going to take a look at in just a sec. I'm pausing here, though, on the equities panel because there are two different ways to access this. Now, down at the bottom, this is going to be the quickest way to get to the chart that we're going to take a look at in just a sec, that tactical timing chart. But if you like what we're talking about, if you like what we're seeing, if you like this chart style that we're about to pull up, open up this charts menu at the top of the equities panel here on our market summary page. Look for that tactical timing link. And if we give you a little bit of a preview here, this is going to show you those short-term 30-minute charts with that 5-day moving average. We'll get into that in just a sec. For a whole bunch of different key averages. So things like the S&P 500, 400, and 600. Here you got the NASDAQ 100. You can pull up all of these charts in just one click. And if you want to save those to your account, you can save all of these charts there. So as we're going through this, remember that link is there. Top right corner, that charts menu, open that up. You can get all of these tactical timing charts for not just the total market, but for a larger list as well. So let's hit that tactical timing chart. Now, when you open this thing up, it's going to jump you to an ETF that I like to follow. This is VTI. It's one of the largest ETFs out there, tracks the total market. I'm going to go ahead and change this, though, to the S&P 500. So this is the S&P 500. I'm going to make two modifications now to this chart. First and foremost, I'm going to use this little black dot down in the bottom right corner of that chart. And I'm going to make this larger so that we can really see everything that we need to about this chart. Now you can see that I can quickly drag that thing out. If you didn't know that this feature of the Sharp Charts workbench is there, it is a game changer. I love using that thing to maximize the screen real estate, change the size and shape of your charts on the fly. So that's our first modification. Second modification before we get into the key levels on this chart, this is a 1 month chart, 30-minute chart, 1 month range. So we're looking at 1 month of data. Every bar represents 30 minutes of trading. And like I said, there's one key thing on this chart, which is that moving average. This is a 65 period moving average, which translates from a 30-minute chart, translates to be a 5-day moving average. The 5-day moving average on an intraday time frame, on an intraday chart, gives you a really, really interesting tactical look at where the market is heading and how we're sort of bumping up against that very, very short-term average. Some chartists like to say, for instance, Brian Shannon, he's kind of popularized this thing, Brian Shannon of Alpha Trends, a market that is trying to rally below a declining 5-day moving average is not to be trusted. We saw that for a while back here in kind of early April, right? We saw this declining 5-day moving average, and every time we got one of these rallies, we got slapped back down. What's interesting is that this moving average has kind of started to change character. I would still define this as moving sideways, but we are starting to get back above that moving average. We're chopping around in this sideways trading action, but we're starting to see a bit of a change of character on this short-term chart. So a really, really interesting one to watch right now. The second modification, though, that I said that I wanted to make, I'm going to drag this thing out so that we get a little bit more context. So we're looking at 1 month of data right now. I'm going to change this to be a 3-month chart. You know what? We're going to do a 2-month chart. We're going to come down here to the bottom of the workbench. We're going to change this to be a 2-month chart. So same exact chart. We got that 5-day moving average. We're just looking at 2 months of data with those 30-minute bars now. Now, the thing that I want to draw your attention to is the 5,500 level on the S&P 500. This is an absolutely crucial, critical, massively important level to watch right now. The S&P 500 is doing a couple of things that, for me as a chartist, someone that's been doing this for a long time, this is the type of thing that you read about in textbooks. We're seeing support and resistance, supply and demand dynamics on this chart in real time. We're even getting a little bit of gap action to bring in here. So I'm going to use the inspect tool, the crosshairs. You can turn on this tool up here with this little button. Make sure that this is highlighted in black to turn that on. You can just give it a click, turn that on. What that's going to do is add these crosshairs, sort of floating horizontal and vertical lines to your chart. Now, you can do some really interesting things with this tool. You can actually measure in different directions. We can see percent changes either up and down. We can also do bar counts if we actually click and drag horizontally. So click and drag in a couple of different directions gives you some nice sort of built-in features. You also get, of course, that floating little data panel to drill into the charts kind of in real time. But the thing that I love about this is that it allows you to see support and resistance levels kind of on the fly, really without having to annotate your chart. So, of course, you could go in, you could draw these different lines, but if you want to just sort of chart on the fly and see some of these support and resistance levels as you go, this is a great tool to use. Again, you get that horizontal line that's going across your charts following your cursor. And so in this case, we can position that kind of right around that 5,500 level. And I want to talk through a couple of the key things that have happened here with this chart. So I'm going to position this so that I get my my little data window kind of out of the way. We're there at the 5,500 level. Now, a couple of things that stand out to me here for the S&P 500, again, chopping around right below this key 5,500 level. If we look at kind of the left half of this chart, again, this is going back 2 months. So what we can see is prior support, incredibly well-defined support here on the 30-minute chart in the month of March. You've got a ton of support that came in right here at that 5,500 level, and then we bounced off that. We came back down to test it, and once again, kind of at the end of March, right at the end of March, we bounced off that 5,500 level again. That was clear support, buyers stepping in to send SPX higher off of that 5,500 level. Now, of course, we got a lot of tariff news at the start of April. Things really started to change. Those tariffs actually kicked in. And so we saw this huge gap down from April 2nd to April 3rd. Here is that monster gap you can see on the charts, very, very clear on the 30-minute chart, that gap down at the open that we saw on the 3rd. What's interesting is that we opened basically right at that 5,500 level for the S&P 500. So you've got the bottom of this clear gap down to play with, again, coming in right at that 5,500 level. Now, at that on that session, we kind of chopped around that a little bit, came lower, came back up, and then just got absolutely hammered off of that level again. What's interesting to me when I look at this chart is that obviously the month of April has been incredibly weak generally for the S&P 500, for the equity markets overall. We've seen the equity markets trade quite a lot lower, down to those lows that we saw kind of at the start of April. But there are a couple of interesting things that have happened, again, relative to this 5,500 level in the month of April. So if we position that line once again right up at that 5,500 level, this day, these kind of big spike that we saw on April 9th, this was the tariff reaction, the kind of tariff tease reaction. When the administration came out and said that there was a chance that tariffs were going to be listed, we got kind of that tariff tease, right? We saw the markets absolutely spike. To be honest, I actually, when I first clicked over to StockCharts that day, I thought, oh my gosh, something must have happened. Our data pipeline must be broken because there's no way the market has rallied by such a huge percentage. Of course, that actually turned out to be true. We can see that clearly on that 30-minute chart. We can actually measure that. How crazy of a day this was, a 10% rally. Just a huge, huge, huge move. But what's interesting is that we came right up to that 5,500 level. We were just below it. So the sort of tariff tease reaction, the reaction highs from that day brought us right back up to that 5,500 level. Now, again, that was prior support that suddenly was turning into resistance in the month of April. In March, we had pretty clear support around that 5,500 level, and in April, we started to see pretty clear resistance at that 5,500 level. We traded off of it. We came back up, and really this month now, multiple times, every time that we've approached that 5,500 level for the S&P 500, we've been shot back down. This is today, yet again, another test of just shy of that 5,500 level, 5,480, 5,500, right in there. If you think about that kind of as a range, we are seeing the S&P 500 once again test that key range. So this chart just absolutely screams at me as I'm flipping through everything that's happening in the markets, as I'm drilling into to sectors and breadth and sentiment, all the stuff that you can see on that new market summary page. This is one of the charts that absolutely stands out to me that I want to make sure you guys are aware of. This, to me, paints the picture of how crucial this 5,500 level is, how crucial this moment really is for the S&P 500. Now, of course, if we start to trade above this, I'm going to want to see us test this level from the from the top side, come back into that 5,500 range, hopefully see that resistance turn into support. If we can make a push through that 5,500 level, what we want to start to see to really make sure that it's solidifying, we want to see buyers defend it, one, maybe even two more times over the coming weeks and months. So keep an eye on that 5,500 level. Make sure that that is sort of etched in your brain. Draw that on your S&P 500 charts, whatever chart you're using to track the major indexes, track the S&P 500 in particular. Make sure that that 5,500 level is drawn across there for you. Now, you can do this same exercise with some of the other indexes. Maybe drill into mid caps with the S&P 400 or small caps with the S&P 600. Any of those different indexes, maybe you like the Russell indexes, do the same kind of thing. Again, if we jump back over to that market summary page, you can open up that charts menu, hit that tactical timing link, and like I said, you're going to get all of these charts. These are those 30-minute charts with that 5-day moving average. You'll get all of these charts for the major indexes that we typically like to follow to think about the U.S. stock market. Best way to do this, save that to a chart list in your account. You can save it as a new list, and then you can start to make these charts your own. You can make any of those modifications that you want. If you want to switch out any symbols as well, maybe you prefer to use the indexes instead of the ETFs, you can do any of that stuff kind of using this chart list as a starter. So key resource there. Keep an eye on these, though. Even if you don't save this to your account, this is a great link to bookmark, come back to, and you can sort of breeze through this thing and see some of these short-term charts, again, for those key U.S. averages. So wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of kind of how I'm thinking about the S&P 500 right now. Again, such a crucial moment for that major index in particular. Now, something else I've been thinking about this week is volatility, right? This is a kind of the topic of the moment, the buzzword of the moment right now. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the heightened volatility environment that we find ourselves in. We scroll down here on our market summary page. We've actually got a bigger chart of the VIX, a little bit more context here. This is a 1-year chart of the VIX, so it's going to give you a little bit of a sense of kind of where we are. We can see that huge VIX spike right up into the 60s. Coming out of the teenager levels, coming out of the 16s, all the way up to a VIX value of 60. Heightened volatility, right? Something I've been thinking about this week, though, is that when we see this kind of environment, when we hear about heightened volatility, when we hear about the VIX spiking, the fear index spiking, we call it the fear index for a reason, right? We associate it with moves to the downside. We associate it with a market that's getting hit, that's just absolutely sliding, everything deteriorating, things, weakening, and lots of red on the screen. But a heightened volatility environment also brings some of the biggest up days. So when you're thinking about a market that's got this, high VIX and everything is crazy, everything is sliding to the downside, we're trading below all of these different moving averages, things feel really, really scary, right? And everyone loves to talk about the negative days, the weak days, the days that are just absolutely getting slammed. But the thing I've been thinking about, especially this week, since we've seen some pretty substantial moves to the upside now, those heightened volatility environments also bring with them some of the biggest up days. They bring with them some huge moves to the upside. We're seeing that in the past couple of sessions. Now, I bring that up because when markets get scary like this, oftentimes it's easy to feel like, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I'm worried. I'm panicked. Everyone doesn't, there's so much uncertainty and the volatility and everything that's going on. I'm just going to step away. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm going to turn off the screen, step away from the markets, and just kind of, wait until all of this subsides. Now, if that's what you absolutely need to do for your own, maybe mental health, more power to you. But for most of us as market participants, now is not the time to look away. When we see these heightened volatility environments, big moves to the downside, big moves to the upside, now is not the time to step away, to look away, to bury our head in the sand. Now is the time to really fine-tune our process, stick to our routines, make sure that we're paying attention to the charts, make sure that we're really staying vigilant and watching all of the action. We've been saying for a while here at StockCharts, our new motto for fun is keep calm and chart on, because that really is the way to handle these kind of environments, right? You keep calm, you keep charting the right way, you keep following the process, following the routines, using tools like this market summary page to really drill into all of the different corners of the market, and you stay ready. You stay kind of warm over there, ready to take advantage of the moves to the upside when they do happen, if that is interesting to you. So even in a crazy environment like right now, it's still crucial to maintain those watch lists, to keep running those scans, keep an eye on what's working, so that if the times change really quickly, as they do in these heightened volatility environments, you're there, you're ready, you got your watch list full of stuff that you are willing and able to jump on. You can put on some new trades, take advantage of those quick moves to the upside. Ultimately, in these kind of environments, markets move very, very fast. The right way to catch it is just to stay true to your process, stay true to your routines, keep those watch lists going. Even if you're not pulling the trigger on some of those trades, continuing to build up those watch lists and maintain your system, your routines, all of that is crucial. So that's why today we're talking about finding some of the strongest stocks out there in the market in just a couple of clicks. We're going to draw your attention to one of my favorite panels on this market summary page. This is a great way to think about the markets, but it's also a fantastic tool for drilling in and finding new stocks that you might be interested in buying. I'm going to draw your attention to the new highs panel. Now, we're specifically looking at stocks moving to the upside. We're thinking about taking long positions here, going long on some new trades. So we're looking at this new highs panel. There are two different tabs here that we can think about. There's our daily highs scan, which is going to show you the percentage of stocks across these key indexes making new highs for any of these timeframes. All-time highs, 52-week highs, 9-month, 6-month, 3-month, 1-month highs. This is, again, a great way to think about the markets. If we have a really, really strong market, we're going to see a lot of stocks making new highs, and these percentages are going to be high. If we have a really weak market, we're not going to see very many stocks making new highs. We're going to see instead a lot of stocks making new lows over in this panel on the right. This, though, is just going to be the latest day. It's going to be the most recent trading session. We run these scans throughout the day, so as you refresh this page, those results will be up to date. But we can also do the same thing with a weekly scan. So here on the weekly highs tab, this is going to show you all of the stocks, again, in these indexes that have made a new high for any of these key timeframes this week. So instead of looking at daily highs, we're actually looking at weekly highs. If any of these stocks and these indexes have made a new high, 9-month, 6-month, 3-month, any of these timeframes this week, at any point during this trading week, they're going to show up here in these percentage values. So again, a great way to think about the markets. Right now, we have a market that's starting to recover. So when we look at our 1-month highs column in particular, obviously we've seen a market that's sold off quite aggressively. And so now that we're starting to get back into a little bit of strength, we've got buyers showing up. We're seeing a larger number of stocks starting to make some 1-month highs. Not a lot of things making 9-month or 52-week highs or all-time highs yet, but we are starting to see some higher numbers here in the 1-month high column. So this is a great way, again, to sort of think about the market, analyze basically breadth. This is kind of another way to think about breadth. But the great thing about this panel is that it's clickable. Just like many of the things on this tool, on this page, this market summary page, you can click any of these numbers to actually see the stocks that are making those results, see the stocks that make up those 12% or those 12.5%, any of those different things. So, for instance, if we want to think again about the S&P 500, maybe we want to find the strongest stocks, absolute strongest stocks out there in the S&P 500. We want the ones that are totally bucking the trend of this market, doing something completely different and showing signs of strength. I would say that anything making a 52-week high in a very bearish environment where you've got the indexes trading, 15 to 20% off of their highs, I would say any stock, any individual stock that's making a new 52-week high is probably incredibly strong. So, for instance, 1.8% of the S&P 500 made a new 52-week high this week, and we can see those results in one click right here. That translates to 9 stocks. 9 stocks in the S&P 500 made a new 52-week high this week, and you can see them in one click right here. Now, of course, you can get that list. You can save this to your own account. But if you want to quickly see individual charts of those stocks, you can hit that Sharp Charts tab at the top and scroll through some full-sized charts. Now, this is using my default style. So this is going to be weekly charts, a little bit of a longer-term view. This will show your default style when you use this tool. So whatever you've set in your StockCharts account, that's what's going to show here. And similarly, if you want to get a quick glance at some of these, you can use our candle glance tab here with those scan results to quickly see how some of those different names are moving. Anything that catches your eye, for instance, Coca-Cola maybe looks good. You can give that a click. That's going to open up a full-size chart of that. And from there, you're just off to the races. You can do anything that you want with that chart as if it's one that you just pulled up the ticker symbol for. So again, very, very quick and easy to come up with those stocks that are making new highs. You can use this panel to track sort of as a market indicator to track strength in the market, or on the new lows panel, track weakness in the market. But you can also use this panel as a great way to find individual stocks that could be making tradable moves right now. Some of the strongest stocks in the market, they're going to show up here in that all-time highs panel column, or in that 52-week highs column. Really, really easy to find those. And you can do that, again, for any of these indexes. So if you want mega caps only, you can look at the S&P 100. If you want large caps, the S&P 500. If you want to drill into, again, some of that strength that we've been seeing actually out of small caps, you can see the 0.5% of small caps that have made a new all-time high this week. Here we got 3 stocks: Stride, FC Stone, and Virtue Financial. So really, really, really easy to find those stocks using that new highs panel here on the market summary tool. Very, very quick and easy. Now, similarly, if you do want to find maybe short opportunities out there, you can use the new lows panel instead of that new highs. Drill into some of the stocks that are making new 1-month lows or 3-month lows or new 52-week lows, any of that kind of thing using that panel. So that's our first stop. I want to make sure that you're aware on that market summary page, you can use that new highs panel to quickly pull up those stocks that are making those new highs across those key timeframes. Easy way to find stocks that are bucking the trend of this down market and showing signs of strength, signs of life. Our second stop, though, second tool that you can use to quickly and easily find the strongest stocks out there in the market, again, in just a couple of clicks, is going to be on our index members page. Now, actually, we've wired this up so that on that new highs panel and the new lows panel, you've got a link right there to the index members tool. You can also click on any of these links actually in this column to quickly pull up the entire group. So, for instance, let's say we want to look at the S&P 500. That's kind of been our theme for the day. We can either hit that index members button at the bottom to jump over that tool, or hit that S&P 500 link to pull up all of the S&P 500 stocks. Now, if we were at the top of the market summary page, you could have also used the links right in here. We've got them across the top. You'll see that we're now on the index members tab at the very, very top. And again, in that charts and tools menu up at the top of any page, you've got a link to the index members tool. So lots and lots of ways to get here. I love to point people to this, though, because it's a great way to drill into the indexes. You know, a lot of times you want to think about the Dow stocks, the NASDAQ 100 stocks, the S&P 500 stocks, different things like that. This tool lets you do it very, very quickly. You could, of course, also do this by creating a chart list in your account populated with those S&P 500 names. We make that really easy when you create a new chart list. You can select one of those different index groups to quickly create that. But this is a great way to do it sort of, on the fly. Look up the index members and see everything kind of in one place for you without having to go create anything. This page, though, is a great one to use to find the strongest stocks out there in any of these indexes. So, of course, we could do different things like, well, over the last 1 month, what are the biggest percent gainers? These ones are probably going to be some of the strongest stocks out there. You got, of course, Newmont. Gold mining has been absolutely flying with everything that gold has been doing. You got a lot of staples in that group. And, of course, you've got the Big Mag 7 name. Netflix has been absolutely bucking the trend of the total market. So, easy to find some of those names there. But we can do some more interesting things with this table. We can sort by any of these different factors. You can see them all by scrolling horizontally, or if you click this columns button, you can turn different columns on and off. We can sort by any of these different fields, though. So in this case, now we're looking at the S&P 500. We can sort it by percentage change over the last, 1 month, any of these different periods. But the one that I want to draw your attention to is the scooter column. This is the quickest, the easiest way to find the strongest stocks in any group. So right now, we've pulled up the S&P 500. We're going to sort this by scooter from the top down. The scooter is our StockCharts technical rank. It's the exact same technical criteria applied to a whole group of stocks all at once. When you're looking at the S&P 500, you're looking at large caps. So you can compare these numbers across all of these different names to quickly find the strongest ones. Anything with a number up near 100 is going to be colored green. That's going to be as strong as it possibly gets. And if we sort this in reverse, anything with a number down near 0 is going to be colored in red. Those are going to be the most bearish chart setups out there in any of these groups. So if you want to quickly find S&P 500 names that are looking good technically, sort this thing by scooter. That is going to give you a very easy way to find the strongest stocks out there. Now, if you want to get a little sense of this, you can hover over the chart of the symbol of any of these companies to quickly pull up a little mini chart for there. So in this case, you can see Palantir starting to move back to the upside, not quite at all-time highs, but you can see with that little mini chart, Palantir really starting to make a nice move here, up 11% over the last month, absolutely flying off the lows there that we saw from the market bottom in early April. Netflix, one that we already touched on, up at all-time highs. Huge moves out of Netflix recently. And as you go through this list, you'll see that everything here is incredibly strong. Some of the strongest stocks out there in the market right now are going to show up with those strong scooter scores. Really easy to find these. CrowdStrike, a really interesting one right now, trying to make a breakout. Still a little bit below its all-time highs, but a really interesting chart setup right now. And you can quickly scroll through all of these different names to see how strong those are. So really, in just a couple of clicks, you've found the S&P 500, the entire group. Now you can sort it by different time frames, but you can also use that scooter column to quickly find the strongest technical setups out there in the market. Now, the index members page is a great way to do this kind of on the fly and pull up the ones that seem interesting to you. Maybe pair that with some of the other columns here, like the percentage away from different moving averages or what's got a strong RSI, different factors like that. But if you really want to drill into this, one other way to do it, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, save these things to a chart list in your own account. Save the S&P 500 members to a chart list in your own account. And then you can flip through the charts in addition to some of this data. You can use the summary view for that chart list to sort by scooter, use that to pinpoint the ones that are your top choices, your strongest technical leaders in that group. And then you can pull up those charts, move them to any of the other charts in your list, move them to your watch list, anything that you want to do. So a couple different options there. I do find that this index members page is a great one to kind of keep bookmarked. Again, use your bookmarks. Make sure that you're returning to this to really kind of study through some of these indexes, see what's happening across them. But if you also want to kind of take this to the next level, save a chart list in your account with those S&P 500 members. That's also going to make it pretty easy to do a similar thing, sorting by scooter. So a couple of clicks there. We found the strongest stocks out there in the market, two different ways. One from the market summary page. We can do that with that new highs panel. Also from our index members page, you can find those strongest scooter scores in any of these groups, S&P 500, 400, 600, maybe the Dow stocks. All of those different indexes are available in that index members page. Makes it really easy to use that scooter column in particular to find the strongest technical leaders. So many different tools out there across the StockCharts platform. We're drilling into them week by week here on our StockCharts TV channel. It's always fun to do that with you guys. But especially this new market summary page, I'm finding it to be incredibly helpful for the current climate that we are in. This thing has just been an absolute godsend, and we've heard great reviews from so many of you guys. So thank you for all of your feedback, all of your insights, all of your kind words as well. We've heard a lot of great stuff on that market summary page. And we're continuing to evolve it. So actually keep an eye on that page, some of those different chart menus, some of the different panels. We've actually added some additional data to that page already in the last couple of weeks. For instance, our offense defense panel has now expanded. We've made that actually a key ratios panel that brings in a couple of different ratios beyond just those traditional offense defense ratios that we like to track. So always changing. We're always adding things to that market summary page, adding more charts, different things. So give that a shot if you haven't already, and make sure you're continuing to use that thing because it is continuing to evolve. By the way, speaking of some of these charts, the market summary chart pack, we touched on that last week. That is now out and available. You can visit stockcharts.com/marketplace. Scroll down a little bit. You'll see a link to that market summary chart pack. But all of the charts that follow along with that market summary page we've been looking at the last couple of weeks, they're all available for you. One click, you can install all of those pre-formatted, pre-created lists, pre-built charts, everything. It's all going to follow along with that market summary page. So take your StockCharts account, populate it with the contents of that chart pack. Makes it really easy to get great charts and great lists in your account in one click. And especially as you're going through your process using that market summary page, if you're following along with the charts that come in that chart pack as well, it'll really take it to the next level. Similar to what we saw with that tactical timing list, being able to scroll through all of those lists, you can basically get all of that stuff in one click with that market summary chart pack. So we'll put a link down in the description below. But again, if you're listening in here, stockcharts.com/marketplace, make sure you're logged into your StockCharts account. You'll be able to add all of that stuff again in just one click. That's our theme of the day, I guess. S&P 500, 5,500 level, but also one click. We're talking about getting strong stocks in one click. We're talking about getting charts and chart packs and lists and all that good stuff in one click. So that is our theme of the day. Anyways, I want to thank you so much again for joining me on the show today. It has been a blast to be with you. So much to cover here. Always something happening out there in the markets and, of course, on StockCharts. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more great content like this and from all of our other contributors that we have. So many of us putting up great content, great market insights. It's always fun to hear the other experts on the StockCharts TV channel. Dave Keller, Mary Ellen McGonigal, Joe Rabel, Tom Bowley. So many contributors. And it's only getting going. We got more coming at you always on StockCharts and StockCharts TV. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're staying tuned in to the StockCharts TV channel. Anyways, my name is Grayson Roze, Chief Strategist here at StockCharts. It's been great to be with you. I'll see you again soon for another episode. But remember the motto. In the meantime, keep calm and chart on, my friends.